All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
You've reached the internet's home for all things masonry. Join On the Level podcast as we plumb the depths of our ancient craft and try to unlock the mysteries, dispel the fallacies, and utilize the teachings of Freemasonry to unlock the greatness within each of us.
I have you now.
Hitchhiker.
All that, yeah.
I think that term's used for into the not the paranormal, UFO. For the paranormal, we call it an attachment. You have an attachment with you. When you go to a place, it likes you so much, it just wants to attach itself to you, and it'll come back home with you. I've had an experience with an attachment years ago when I first started. It wasn't pretty. So we went to this place and we investigated. It's a historical hotel, motel. It had a whole bunch of other things going on. And we went on to the other side of this hotel, third floor, and went great. And then all of a sudden my wife was like, hey, he doesn't look normal. He's like, do you want to step out? Like, do you want to go downstairs? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go downstairs. And she's like, as soon as he stepped down to the bottom floor, you just collapsed. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, and I also saw your eyes go totally black. And I'm like, oh, awesome. That sounds awesome. But fast forward, we get home, and that night, we literally had, like, in the movies, you see the blankets get pulled out from under you or off of you. And it happened. We woke up and we're like, where's the blanket? And we see it on the corner and we're like, what the hell happened there? So she has these medallions and stuff, and she put one on my door. And when she put that medallion on the door, you would actually see shadow figures walking back and forth in front of my door. And then 2 days later, disappeared. And we started having issues again in the room. She bought another one, put it on top. You see the shadow figure pacing back and forth in front of my door. Went missing after 2 days. We moved out of that place and we never found any of those medallions or anything ever again. Like they completely disappeared. And till this day, we actually named my attachment. I think his name is Frank. We named him Frank. So Frank, yeah.
Frank? Hold on, you named the spirit, sir?
yeah, we named him Frank.
Okay.
I mean, spirits deserve names like Beelzebub and like Megatron, you know? You can't name him Frank.
I mean,
that's not cool.
Yeah. I mean, they're not
at
a dog.
At least end it with Bub or something along those lines.
Frankabub.
Yeah.
So, Frank has actually shown up on a couple of our latest investigations. He's come through in our experiments that we do and all that. So he's still around, like the attachment, or he's still around with me.
Mikey, no. This is not okay, dude.
Does that make you feel, how does that make you feel when you're in the presence of that Frank entity?
So the story of Frank, he has a whole totally different name. I just totally forgot his name and I just named him Frank. Frank was an assassin from like the late 1900s or something like that. He worked for the military. He was an assassin for quite some time, and he's okay. He's not a bad guy. Like,
are you sure his name isn't Mr. Hyde?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh my
that's
gosh.
Crazy.
But yeah, when you're in this field, you actually do end up getting attachments, or as you call them, I forgot the name of it, followers.
Hitchhikers. Yeah.
Hitchhikers. And a lot of our clients think that we going in are going to leave our own attachments or our own personal stuff at their place. It's not true. We actually end up bringing them back with us. So we're at more of a risk of getting attachments and having things come back with us than leaving them at any customers.
Yeah, for sure. It's dangerous. It's really scary. And like, even some of the cameramen that did editing for the government, like that were part of the ATIP program, had hitchhiker type experiences after reviewing the tapes that they were required to sit through and record what happened. So it wasn't like you had to physically be there. Just by watching what was happening, they were having hitchhiker type effects.
So
what the government.
What I'm hearing is dinner at Mikey's house later this week has been canceled.
Yeah, I don't want a hitchhiker type effect. I'm good.
No, trust me, we try to get rid of Frank. He's not going anywhere. He likes me too much.
That's maybe you got something to learn from that there still.
Well, and even still, let me shift gears here for a second. So, talking specifically about the spiritual side of this, have you guys ever heard of Zachary King?
No.
Okay. Zachary King was a ex-high priest from a Satanist cult. So he's been to Bohemian Grove and all this other stuff. He's done multiple interviews on this stuff. I'll send you some of the videos on it. Yeah. But he intentionally performed 140 abortions. So he lived in this. Yeah. Oh, dude, this is going to be one of the weirdest stories ever. So he actually saw, like, the man in the top hat. The man with the top hat with the ICP clown face, type stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So he actually saw this in like a house that he lived in growing up, so he lived at like a neighbor's house growing up. So they had in that house, he was actually trained to become a high priest in the Satanist cult. And so, like I said, he performed 140 abortions. He said they had young women in that house that were specifically, their job was to get pregnant so that way he could perform the abortion. And so this guy, he had the clown face, the top hat, the cane, everything. And he pointed it out. So now he's converted to Catholicism and he's a pro-life activist now. It's an amazing story.
Here's the thing. Did he really convert? Because I feel like Satanists are Catholics. They're just labeling themselves differently. Like,
I do not put it past anyone to lie in order to get into an organization. Please see the Taxel hoax for reference.
We are going to do an episode very soon about the Taxel hoax.
I am so looking forward to that.
Actually, that might wind up being 2 episodes because we definitely got to delve into that one so people know what you're talking about.
So either way, what this guy said is he goes, look, if you ever want to see a satanic ritual and you want to see the Grand High Priest in the Satanist occult, look up Pink's Just Like a Pill video. He goes that music video, the actual Grand High Priest for the Satanist occult makes 2 appearances in there, and part of that is that they're doing a ritual.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, it's insane. So whenever we talk about this paranormal stuff, like I go straight to the spiritual world. I mean, it's around us. People are practicing it on both sides.
Oh yeah.
So the Satanist rituals are based on pagan rituals. Okay. They were doing those rituals before there was Christianity. And, they might have used different names in the rituals, but it was definitely the same symbology, the same kind of like philosophy behind what they were doing. I think Satanists took it and tried to put like I think Satanists are just like contrarians. Like they're pissed off at the Christian church for some reason and they want to embarrass them.
Well, I think I'm of the opinion, and maybe we can get past Master's thoughts back on here to talk about it, but Dwayne Marshall. But I'm of the opinion that there are 2 different divisions within the Satanist occult or the pagan occult, or just anti-Christian, whatever you want to call it.
Those are so different. Like the pagan cult has nothing to do with Christianity or Satanism. Like they don't want any part in any of that stuff.
Right. And I'm of the opinion there's probably 2 branches of it. There is the part that's trying to be counterculture. That makes all the sense in the world.
I think those are the Satanists. Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's also ones that are actual practicing. They believe in that demonic spiritual world, so at least that's my opinion. Same thing with Christianity too. There's a whole lot of mainline Christians.
How dumb are you? Because if you believe in Christian demonology, you believe in Jesus Christ. So how are you so dumb that you know what you're doing and you're still doing it anyways? Come on, man. Like, how dumb are these people?
Look, some people intentionally pick it. I mean, even if you go back to the book of 1st and 2nd Kings with King Solomon, I mean, King Solomon was directly told by a prophet, do not marry these foreign women and do not build temples in the high places to these pagan gods, meaning Baal, Moloch, and Ashtoreth. And he did it anyway. And then look what happened. And it led to the destruction of Israel.
I'm doing some light reading right now called the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon.
Oh.
It's not well known, but Solomon apparently documented a lot of how he got so much wisdom and wealth, what actual ceremonies he performed. and pass it off to his children. And obviously, this book is about what he passed on. And a lot of this is pagan ritual stuff. Like, there wasn't Christianity in Solomon's time, obviously.
Mhm.
It was, the predominant religion was Judaism. And they had the Kabbalah, which is kind of like a spiritual magic stuff. So a lot of Solomon's stuff is magic from the Kabbalah.
You know, there's a guy that was talking about how Christ did that. So whenever we have that time gap, and I haven't explored this, I don't know if I want to explore this.
His 30 years in the desert or whatever it was?
No. So we leave off Christ as a child, I think somewhere between like 8 and 12 years old. Like, we see him in the temple teaching, and then we have nothing on the time of Christ until he shows back up at like 30 years old.
Right.
And then he, of course, he's crucified at the age of 33. Imagine that, another 33. So a lot of people are like, no, like whenever Christ, whenever you have that time gap of his time was not documented, he was in Egypt learning like, the spiritual energies and all this other stuff. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I want to believe that, but it's an interesting story.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not documented, so you can't prove it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Makes for an interesting story. I think he probably just wasn't doing interesting things worth documenting at that time, I mean,
I still like the story where some kids were picking on him and he like sicked a bear on them, or maybe that was Elijah. Like, one of the best stories ever.
You know
it's
who
like,
I am? Do you know who my father is?
I'm going to report this to the manager.
I don't care who your father is.
He was the first Nepo baby. Okay.
I honestly, I think that was the prophet
That was
Elijah, where like some kids picked on him because he was bald, and so he sicked some bears on them to eat them.
Wow.
That's savage.
That is savage.
Yeah, well, now that we're talking a little bit about the religion, we go in when we get clients come up to us. We usually ask them what religion they are, just because, like, if they need any outside help from us, we try to find them the help of their religion. Like, if they want a Catholic,
I mean, that makes
priest,
sense, right? You want to talk to them in the language they understand. But
there's a lot of groups that just do their own. Like, if, the client's Christian, the group will be like, oh, well, we're going to do our own thing, and, blah, blah, blah. And
they kind of avoid the whole Christian aspect of it and just stick to the science.
So we kind of ask them, and, we had one where the husband was Jewish and the wife was Christian, and we're like, oh, what do we do in this situation?
Go with the wife. Always go with the wife in that situation.
But we ended up actually helping him out. We found a rabbi to help out, and I think it was a rabbi that did both religions. I don't know. I forgot what it was. It was years ago. But it was interesting. But yeah, we
so there's always or there's often a religious aspect to some of the investigations you do.
We had one case where the lady came to us and she told us she was having experiences. And then we get there and she goes, oh, I don't want you guys to investigate, but can you guys like talk to me about it? And we're like, yeah, we'll talk to you about it. And we talked to her and she goes, yeah, I just don't want like my church to see, like they think I'm crazy.
This is the social stigma part of why people don't come forward. Yeah. Because there's a real stigma that you're going to be looked at as the weird one and people aren't going to talk to you the same way anymore or treat you the same way anymore.
But we had a little private conversation with her, and we explained to her everything. And we also try to
I know for a fact someone like that just needs to know they're not the only one. Like, as soon as they hear other people are experiencing the same thing and they're scared of the same thing, they all of a sudden feel like vindicated and they're more confident to like tell you.
They open up so much when we're just like, hey, you're not the only one that's gone through this. We go. I mean, obviously, we do it all the time. And they're just like, they open up so much more and they give us more details, and they don't think they're crazy. I mean, we've had people who are like, hey, you probably think we're crazy, and we're like, really, dude? Like, we do this for a living. This is our hobby.
This is normal Tuesday night stuff for me, lady.
Well, and not only that, but I'm really looking forward to the comments section on this, because I know we've had a couple of people that on the like YouTube channel and stuff like that, you know, they comment about Freemasons and how we're evil and all this other stuff. I'm really looking forward to the comment section whenever this video gets posted, because it's going to be like, I knew you Freemasons were into some weird stuff.
Well, so this is okay. Freemasonry is made up of you. Okay, we have plumbers, we have DJs, we have paranormal investigators. We are you, and so we're looking for the truth. I think it's brave to publicly have a podcast looking at this stuff, and to, you know, I think it's good that you're trying to treat it like with respect, and give people an outlet to know that they're not crazy, that they're not alone. And I noticed a lot of what you talk about is just trying to help those people. Like, you're not there to prove a point or to get something for your own podcast. You're kind of saying that you're there to like counsel them or help them get through what they're dealing with. That's what it sounds like.
We try to help as many people as we can. I mean, you know, there are people out there that need medical help in a way.
Like they're legit crazy.
Yeah, they are. And we still try to talk to them and help them out through the situations that they're going through. And we were like, hey, you might need to go seek some medical attention, or you might need to go see a therapist.
We know there are legit medical conditions where you will hear voices that you think are real.
Yeah.
That's called schizophrenia, kids.
Right. Schizophrenia is an actual thing. And schizophrenics, they really believe they're hearing things that aren't happening, but to them it is real. Yeah. And there's a great movie called A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe that kind of delves into a schizophrenic guy who happens to be a college-educated professor. And he gets so psychotic that he believes he's working for the government to try to uncover a plot of Nazis and stuff. And he's like harming people. And so he winds up on medication, and but obviously on the medication, he loses his ability to do advanced science because it's serious. I mean, when you have a psychotic condition, what they're giving you are crazy heavy drugs. So of course it's going to affect your personality. So he hated the drugs because he couldn't do what he loved anymore. And so he tried to wean himself off the drugs by always having a third party to verify his reality. So when the voices would talk to him, he'd take a student and be like, do you see that guy? And if they say no, he'd be like, thank you very much. And he'd know to ignore the person.
There's also a good movie about that called Fight Club, but we don't talk about it.
I love Fight Club. It's one of my top 5 movies of all time. So, okay, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP, is what you probably know. It came out in 2017. Washington Post, I think, somebody did an article that the government has a legitimate agency investigating this stuff. Came out that Luis Alessandro was the head of this group, and he came out and basically whistleblowed and said, this is going on. I work for them. We have, I don't know how much stupid, $22 million was assigned to this secret organization. And all the money's coming through the Air Force, right? And they don't answer to Congress. They don't. Of course they don't. They don't report to senators or presidents. They report to the committee that funds them within the government. And so a lot of these people wind up being contractors because if you're a federal employee, there's different rules. So they contract work to people that aren't federal employees, but they work in secret government agencies. It's a crazy thing. And so this guy came forward. This is you saw the Tic Tac videos. You've seen like all that public stuff came out of this ATIP program that people leaked.
For those who don't know, before we just kind of blast over that real quick, the Tic Tac video actually was very well documented on the Joe Rogan podcast. But it was I think it was a Navy pilot who actually recorded this Tic Tac shaped object, unexplained aerial phenomena, UAP as they're calling it now. Yes. And so it was traveling at some ridiculous Mach speed, made a 90-degree turn and without losing velocity at all, and then went down into the water with no splash, and it didn't lose any of its speed. And so they can't explain these things. So either they're homemade domestic crafts or they're something, off planet.
Well, so now there's a program called the UAP Task Force. This is what exists right now today that we know about. And the task force is a government agency, and their job is to look into this stuff. So they've opened up reporting to in the military. It used to be if you reported a UFO, you were out of the military. Dishonorably discharged. You're crazy. You can't fly.
Crazy. Yep.
And so it was not talked about. And now that public knows about it, the government has to be more visible. So they have a government website you can go to report UFO activity, paranormal activity, sightings of weird creatures. They want to know about it. And the UAP task force is supposed to be investigating and reporting to Congress. They released their first report. How long do you think a government report on this topic should have been?
Volumes is what it should have been.
It was 4 or 5 pages. And they basically said that it doesn't look like there's much here. It doesn't look like there's much interest to our defense system in the United States. So we are actively living through a time where they are trying to pass legislation in our government to get more transparency on what the government's investigating and what they know about this stuff. But what they're saying in the public reports after they've investigated these reports from Navy pilots and government, like highly credible witnesses, is it's not alien. They're 100% saying, we don't think this is alien technology. What they're saying is it's not ours. And it's not, we really don't think this is a foreign government stuff, because it's just so crazy. It's defying physics. But we also have no evidence that it's alien. This is what their public reports have said so far. So if we look at Bigelow, who did a joint investigation for 20 years on a very interesting part of the earth, he released a 494-page document. And that report basically details how they have recorded with science everything from cryptids to paranormal stuff to UAP activity to remote viewing experiences, which is
remote viewing was legit.
It is legit. It's 100% legit.
Speaking of remote viewing,
and the government, our government, as well as others, had entire programs of people using this for counterintelligence.
Mikey, what were you going to say?
We actually do a experiment while we're doing investigations where it's almost like remote viewing. We call it the Gansfeld, which was also an experiment used by the government back in, I believe, I forgot how long ago that was, before my time. And so the old way they used it, they used to put ping pong balls in your eyes to keep them wide open, and they'd have a red light pointed at you, to your face, with some headphones on, and it would just play white noise, and they'll try to see what they can pick up on just with that. So we use it for the paranormal field. We've advanced it now. We're making our own with RV glasses, goggles, and we're trying to make it nice and look. But we use it now, and it works. The receptive people get so much information. They go in blind. They have no idea of the history of the place or anything that's going on. And we put them in a corner of a room, and they're telling us, there was a fire in 1970 here. 5 people died. This person's coming through. There's a female lady telling me that, her kids were in the basement. We pick up so much information off of these experiments, or off of just that one. Then we have another one called the SD session. This one doesn't have a red light. You're just blindfolded, and you're having radio frequencies running through into your headphones. And from there, you get, a couple of words. Sometimes you even get a sentence coming through. You get names, and you get just about anything. But when we go to other groups, they're like, oh, we don't really do much experiments on while we're doing out in the paranormal. We just do our normal equipment. And we're like, no, well, you should try experiments. They can help out and give you a lot more information here and there. But with those, you also have to make sure that the information you're getting is going along with the historical facts that you have researched, or that the person that does the research for your team, it goes all together. Because then at that point, you're just like, oh, you can say anything.
And keep in mind, none of this is new, to be fair, and so especially a lot of people that, that aren't as receptive to this ideology or receptive to some of this information, they'll be like, oh no, you're full of it. Keep in mind, the Nazis were very heavily invested into the paranormal. They were very heavily invested into the spiritual, all this other stuff. And then in 1945, you've got Operation Paperclip, where they bring 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians from Nazi Germany to be employed by the U.S. government. So it's like, none of this is new.
Our government at the time you're talking about, when they did that, literally made parts of physics national security and not information the public was allowed to have. There were parts of physics and science that were classified and not for the general public. Our government classified science from us at that time because they were working on the Manhattan Project, right? Nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And that is physics. And the parts of physics that involve that became classified and not for the general public. So when the government thinks that things are of national security, they keep it from everybody else. That's how it works. So it's not just the United States. We have public operations in Brazil, several in Canada, France, the Soviet Union, United Kingdom, Uruguay, and many other countries.
The South Pole.
Their governments have had public programs investigating this stuff. And, when you talk about remote viewing, there's a well-known guy who was active in the 50s. And he was known because he could go into a trance-like state and someone would come to him with a physical ailment and he would tap into this knowledge that exists in the ether. I don't know. That's how he explained it. And he would be able to give them what at the time seemed like an insane medical treatment for their ailment. And a lot of the treatments he came up with in his trance-like state are medical science still being used today. So you can't tell me that there's not enough proof that this exists. That doesn't mean we're all capable of doing that. But I think some people are totally capable of doing that.
I think I've heard that explained as white magic.
White magic? Good magic?
So there's a difference between black magic and white magic. White magic being to help people.
One of my favorite books is called The Four Agreements, and it's ancient Toltec wisdom. And that's how they kind of classify magic as either being black or white. But it's so simple as your words. Your words can be used as magic, and you can use it for white magic or black magic. So they use an example of a mom coming home after a long day of work and her kids jumping up and down, singing on the couch. And she's like, would you just shut up? The words came out of her mouth. They went into the child's ears, and the child for the rest of its life thinks they're not good enough. The singing is horrible. It's something they're embarrassed of, because the words from the mother put that concept into the soul of that child, and it became a ruling, governing part of their life. And so you can use words in the same way in the positive. You can, and telling someone, but you are good, you are strong. And they need to hear that, because that's power that they can take in and make it part of their life and start to feel like they are good and they are strong.
Or maybe the kids should get better at singing and stop sucking so much.
So you have kids.
Lessons.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you have kids. It's kind of scary when you think about the power of your words, especially over like innocent things like children or sick people. You have a lot of power in your words. And, their whole philosophy is that God is inside of us and that our worlds are all a dream to each of us. So I'm dreaming every day. And I have the capacity to control my dream if I'm willing to go far enough to make myself aware. And what is hell? It's a place of pain, suffering, anger, regret. And I am living in hell every day. That's my dream. That's my dream. And so I have a little Florida leech. When we're all children, we aren't like that. When we're children, we're very open to the world. We're very accepting of everything. We're quick to adapt and change. But we become domesticated as adults. And the process of domestication is sit down, shut up, don't touch that, don't do this, don't do that. And so you put this leech into the mind of a child that carries with them through life, that constantly tells them, you're an idiot, don't do this, don't do that, you're going to fail. And you have to become aware that that's happening. And then you have the capacity to live your life from a place of love and forgiveness and compassion, which is heaven. So you can choose to live in heaven every day, or you can choose to live in hell every day. You have control over it.
And speaking to words as you just did, I actually see that in our own lodge too. And I realize I talk about Turkey Creek a lot on this podcast. I want to be clear. I love Turkey Creek. I am not leaving Turkey Creek. Like, it is like this like backwoods lodge that we're super chilled out. Like, I really enjoy it.
The last time he's a member of Turkey Creek.
Yeah. So, but it's so funny because just to speak from the different mindsets of like, okay, what built your mindset to where it was? So one of the things that we're talking about is some of us guys who have been raised recently going into elected chairs next year. And so
that's scary, huh?
It is because they're talking about me being one of them. So no. So either way, Mikey, enjoy the Tyler position. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it won't last long.
So, but either way, it's so funny just to see the different mindsets because, like, even our DDGM, they come from this mindset of no, you're too young, no, you're not ready, no, and I'm like, I'm a solution finder. Right. So it's like, okay, I don't care what you have to say on it. What's the goal and what's the fastest way to get there? That's how my wife and I run our household too. It's like, we haven't had an argument a legit argument in years, plurals, like since before our daughter was born. And she just turned 3 a couple of days ago. So it's like, we don't have arguments. It's like, what's the goal? How do we get there? And so one of the older guys at our lodge, he and I were just kind of shooting the bull one night at family night. And he goes, Matt, I'm not okay with X person going into X position because they're not ready. And my response was, then get them ready. That's your job. Like you're the senior member at the lodge. It's your job to get us ready. And it's like, we need leadership in the lodge. We need, and this is true for all lodges. Need leadership. And so you have this older generation that it's no. And I don't know where it comes from or what spirit that comes from. But the younger generation needs, Mikey, myself, Chris, you too, where we have to be able to step up and say, okay, what's going to be the best for the fraternity? What's going to be best for the lodge? Right. And how do we get there as fast as possible?
Well, that is change. It's a change in thinking because what that generation wants to do is what they're comfortable with, what Freemasonry is to them, what it has been to them. And you're talking about moving at a pace they've never seen before. Right? Like, think about those people's Masonic journey. They've never seen what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Probably ever. So it sounds kind of crazy to them. But I think seeing is believing 100%. Once you start showing them that things are getting better, not worse by what you're doing, they'll get on board with it. Because everyone wants to be part of the winning team. So the second you get a couple wins under your belt, trust me, they'll be behind you 100%. Until they see it with their own eyes, they're not going to believe it.
So in October, we're holding an EA degree, and I want everyone to come out, and we're just gonna burn it down. Like, that's what we're gonna do. So,
in a good way?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally.
Okay.
Totally in a good way.
Burn it down sounds horrible.
Oh no. And even still, like, getting back to why Mikey's on the show. I mean, Mikey, you see this stuff on a regular basis. You see the spiritual aspect on a regular basis, or whether you want to call it paranormal or whatever. I've had my own experiences with it. Chris, you've had your experiences with it. It's like, it's out there. Do you want to believe it is what it boils down to.
And I don't think they will until it has happened to them. So Mikey, are you now we talked about the history and where we are today with like our government and they're admitting stuff is out there. Bigelow's report I mentioned, to distill down that almost 500-page report, is this stuff can mostly be explained by interdimensional activity. So that's like, I think where the science community is starting to coalesce, is that all of this weird stuff can be wrapped up in explaining like interdimensional tears and rifts and crossovers that we're not capable of understanding because it's not of our dimension. And so that would explain why your brain shuts down and all you see is a white light and you lost 6 hours time because you can't comprehend anything that's happening when you have an experience with this other dimension. And they actually report portals to other dimensions opening on Skinwalker Ranch and other places that they've documented things coming out of it and things going into it. So this portal idea is a really big concept right now. And if you look at like Aleister Crowley, I don't know if you've heard of him, and the golden, all the stuff he was involved in. Yep. He claims to have done an actual ceremony that led to opening a portal to another dimension, and he communed with an entity from the other dimension called Lamb. And two guys after his death tried to take his ceremony and do it out in the desert. And one of those people, one of those two individuals that tried to open that portal, supposedly failed, went on to create the Church of Scientology. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah. California.
But L. Ron Hubbard, was a disciple of Aleister Crowley, and he tried to repeat one of his biggest ceremonies.
His biggest ceremony.
And he went on to create a whole church that still exists today and is super powerful. So
I know
this stuff is real. I mean, it's happening in the world. People have no idea about it, and you deal with it every day. So, like, are you personally, do you go to any church? Are you like, do you align with any kind of a specific faith of your own?
So I when I was younger, my family was Christian, very Christian. Used to go to church. Takes from like 2 to like 10 o'clock at night, and I was too young, and I was just like, yeah. But then the older I got, I'm just like, I'm not so into it as much. And then I started looking around and started researching more like other religions and stuff. And the one that just caught my eye was like the Norse pagan. I loved the Norse mythology and all that. And that's what stuck with me, and that's what I go by today. So
Thor and Loki and Odin, yeah, the All-Father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's I love that mythology.
That's what I go by. Now my wife, she's in the pagan religion. She does the Wiccan stuff. She loves that stuff.
So that has a lot of misconceptions around it. People are going to think she's a witch, that she wears like a black dress and she sacrifices babies. She doesn't do any of that, does she?
No. So if you were to ever meet my wife, you'd look at her and you'd be like, I don't know. You wouldn't ever think that's what she does. So
we have a brother in our lodge that's a practicing pagan. I have a friend in the neighboring lodge that is a practicing pagan. The brother Dwayne from A Past Master's Thought is a practicing pagan. So there are a lot of pagans in the fraternity. Mm-hmm. We have a past grandmaster that tried to actually make it so that if you are a practicing pagan, you can't be a Freemason. But
I heard about that.
Craft's benefit, they voted it down and didn't allow it to happen. So paganism is really just, if you could distill it down to the worship of things you can see. They worship the sun and the moon and the earth and things you can see.
Yeah,
but it's not like a creepy, spooky thing. They're actually kind of paying honor and devotion to physical things like the earth and the sun and the moon, and describing aspects to those things that are spiritual.
But with like everything else in this world, it always gets a bad rep. Everything gets a bad rep nowadays. If it doesn't fit the norm for other people, it's just totally
freaking normies.
Yeah,
normies. So you does that like affect any of your investigations, or do you just try to put all of that away and go and completely open mind into every situation?
We put our own beliefs and everything aside.
You do?
Yeah, we put it all aside.
Okay.
And we go in. We just go in trying to help people. We don't think about our beliefs. We don't try to push our beliefs onto anyone else. And we just go in there trying to do something to help people out. And also, it's fun for us to do it. So,
How long have you been doing this?
I started back in 2019. I started off as a camera guy with a group. It was just 2 guys and me. And it was my uncle. My uncle goes, "Hey, you want to be the camera guy?" I was like, "Yeah, why not? Sure, I got nothing to do on the weekends." And
you're not one of these. Like you said, you're actually open to everything. It's not like you're just I investigate ghost stories. Like you're looking at whatever it is. You're gonna, if it's not normal, you're gonna go check it out.
Yeah, I actually on the weekends we didn't have anything. We'd go out to like folklore places, like here in Florida. There was the Devil's Tree. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Yeah.
We've driven out 2-3 hours to go to that place trying to find this Devil's Tree. It took us 2 days to find it.
You did find it.
Yeah, we found it. If you go onto our Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, you will actually see the video on there.
So I'm going to link to all of your social profiles and your website on this podcast so people can easily get to it.
And we go to places that we find and that have any scary stories to them. I was doing that for a bit. It's not just, go, hey, someone called and they need an investigation. No, when we're bored, we just also go out and try to find places that might have any activity or anything like that. So,
have you checked out Casadega?
I've heard of it, and a lot of people have told me about it. We haven't gone yet.
Okay.
I've been
to Casadega multiple times, and it is a psychic town. It was built by psychics from the Northeast that came down here to practice their stuff. Mm-hmm. And they sell a lot. There's a lot of crystal culture. There's a lot of like past life regression stuff. There's a lot of, you can get an official reading there. They have like UFO survivor groups. It's become this community of like the other. So Casadega has a hotel that was featured on Unsolved Mysteries because it's so haunted. And that town is full of psychics. So you got to go check it out, man. It's like another world over there.
Chris, don't encourage him. He's going to get another hitchhiker.
Hey, it's okay.
This one's going to be Bob, and Bob was the other assassin that Frank had to contend with.
They'll be like Beavis and Butthead in his bedroom.
I was thinking like Good Spy, Bad Spy, the black and white guys.
Yeah.
They have a group meeting all the hitchhikers have a group meeting out in the backyard every once in a while. I only know because as soon as I walk in, I feel a cold chill. I'm like, oh man, they're having a meeting today.
Really sucks we're ethereal. We can't drink bourbon anymore.
Maybe they're giving you the urge to through them.
I leave them a glass of wine every once in a while, and I see it spilled over. They don't want wine.
Really?
No.
Oh.
But they would like a 3 Ruffian cigar, which you can go to 3ruffians.com. Yeah.
Hey, now,
I still have 4 of their older, your guys' older cigars.
The 3 Ruffians are better. So, like, if anyone's still listening to the show that wasn't a believer at the beginning or thought this was all crazy nonsense, is there anything you can tell them based on your experiences that are like, have you got any really compelling things documented or even personally that you can tell stories of that have happened that people that don't believe in it would have to take a second
and
to look at that and say, oh, wait a second, that's weird.
If you're if you're not a believer, like you were saying, you have to go through your own personal experiences, because for me to try to tell a person what I was going through or what I went through in that time, and they just look at you and maybe agree with you here and there, but then later down, once you finish the conversation, you're like, oh, that guy's crazy. I don't know if I want to talk to that guy again.
Right.
It's hard to persuade somebody or any listeners. It's just, go onto our page and check out our videos, and if you believe it, you believe it. If not, then hey, at least you had an hour of fun watching crazy people talk to the dark for an hour.
That's like the attitude that I feel like a lot of people have these days. It used to be people would get so mad because no one believed them, but I think people generally that come forward don't really care anymore whether you believe them or not. They're like, look, I'm telling you what happened to me. I don't really care if you believe me or not. I just want to get it out there and get it off my chest. And that seems to be like the prevalent attitude these days, is there's not a lot of fear anymore.
No, there's not
what
much
other people
fear.
are going to think about you.
I do. I've done construction, so all my fears have gone right out the window. There's no fear in me at all. I'd step on a ladder.
You're in a bathroom with Matt Stone alone for half a day. You gotta be fearless.
Hey, there was no fear, honestly. I was like, Matt, what's up?
There was nothing but Masonic brotherly love while we were in that shower together with a 70-year-old woman watching us.
Yes. No questions added, no questions asked, nothing. She was just watching.
Mm-hmm. I just want to know how the handful of nickels comes into this story.
I will forever keep it concealed and never reveal. That's what I'll do.
Oh, okay. All right. Good of you. Good on you.
I know there's one story. We went to Mirador. There you go. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Mirador.
No.
It's an Airbnb now. They just sold it. They sold it for a bunch of money. But before they sold it, there's an old lady. She let us. We rented out the whole Airbnb. And the story is the old train master used to live in that house, and the train station was right down the street from them. So we got there early. We go over to where the train station museum is. That's what they call it now. It's a museum, and we found an old train spike there. Brought it back. We call it a trigger object. We bring it back with us. Hopefully, we can get a response or something from it.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up doing our experiments with that train spike, and it was two of us. It was me and another investigator, and she was picking up on a runaway slave. And she was telling us, like, he's running through the woods, they're chasing him, that she hears dogs after her, and this and that. So she finishes her experiment, then I go in, and I ended up picking up the very end of that runaway slave's life. So I was going through the emotions of him passing away. So I started, they were like, oh, you were like, oh my God, and you sounded very worried. And then towards the end, you started getting peaceful, and your oh my God started slowing down. But then you started explaining that you're seeing smoke, and you're looking up, and it started dimming, like everything around you started getting black. And one of them was like, oh, I think he's experiencing death. We should pull him out. I was, no, he sounds peaceful. Just keep letting him go. See what
Peaceful.
we can get. So they pulled me out, and I hear them telling me that, and I'm like, you were gonna let me die. Yeah.
Seems peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real peaceful. The man's dying here.
She's like, hey, he seemed peaceful. That's a funny story we have, and
Hilarious.
yeah. So
no, I honestly couldn't do what you're doing because I don't know. I just don't see the point of putting myself in the situation if I don't need to be in it. I
couldn't do it because I'm a pansy. That's why.
Yeah, that's another way of putting what I'm saying. We're on the same page, I'd say.
It's like, do I want to experience death on my weekend off?
Right. I think one time is all I need that.
Yeah. Do I want to reenact or to experience being a runaway slave with dogs chasing me? Gosh, it's the ball game, or do that.
And mind you, we're blindfolded. We don't hear what's going outside. We have no idea like what questions are being asked. Nothing. Like we have noise cancellation headphones.
People think that what you're doing, what did you call that experiment where you're like blind?
There's two of them. There's the Gansfeld, and then there's also the Estes session.
SD?
Estes.
Yep.
Estes.
Estes. And so the government uses this by they'll take like 20, 30, 50 people and put them on one specific thing and say, I need you to look at this area of the earth and tell me what you see or whatever. And they actually take each report independently. They don't talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And so they accumulate data from multiple remote viewers, and the trends start to emerge based on that.
They were able to find Russian submarines that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They were also using it for Russian, I think it was the nuclear.
And stuff. Russians have been openly using that as a method of gaining intelligence, and probably still are to this day for decades.
I think my favorite story about the remote viewing that you just mentioned, and the guy who located the Russian sub, and he had like a 60 or 70% accuracy, is they handed him an envelope at one point, and they were like, hey, just concentrate on what's inside the envelope. And he's like, what is it? They were like, we're not telling you. Just concentrate on what's inside the envelope. So he sees like a civilization at war and all this other stuff. And so like a nuclear bomb ends up going off and destroying everything. And then he goes, what was I looking at? And he opens it up, and it was actually coordinates and a year in the past on Mars.
I have heard that story, actually.
That's easily one of the best stories about remote viewing I've ever. Obviously, there's no way to verify if it's true or not, but until Elon Musk gets us there. But
well, they've already got. I think just like last week, they have evidence of microbial life on Mars. So now there's some proof that there was life on Mars, and now the question is, what happened to it if there was life on Mars? And even they're detecting signs of life on Venus. I don't know if you've heard this. But they're detecting trace ammonia in the atmosphere, and ammonia is only produced through the bio process of life and death.
How far down this rabbit hole do you want to go? Because there's a guy who's talking about we have a space fleet parked out there behind Saturn.
You know, there are many stories about government projects that involve deals that presidents have made with aliens, and there's a galactic federation that we're a part of.
That's why I created the Space Force. Some say it's the best Space Force. I wouldn't say that, but some say it's the best.
Yeah, it's the biggest.
It's the biggest and best Space Force. Their training videos are abysmal, by the way. They are so bad.
The Space Force?
Yeah, their basic training videos, they're so terrible.
Well, that's like, why did we... Well, now we have a Space Force. It's another branch of the government.
Woohoo.
Government's interested in space. Everyone's interested in space.
Yeah, we need another branch of government like we need another hole in the head. Like we just don't.
I think that you exhibit strong libertarian vibes, brother.
Why, whatever do you mean, Chris? Have you read my Facebook page recently?
I have. I find it very entertaining. I've been getting into like a lot with Right Worshipful Catholicism, which is fun.
I love that guy, man. He is great. I watch you two go back and forth, and I'm just like munching on popcorn while I'm watching y'all guys debate.
Because it's like it's not negative. We're not attacking each other personally. You know what I mean? There's some conversations, and it does get funny. We try to keep it light, and I think it should be that way if you're going to talk politics, or you run the risk of like getting a little too serious with it, hurting feelings and stuff. But we got to be able to talk to each other, or this is all for nothing. If we can't be a United Nation of states, I don't know what the hell we got.
You know, I think that's probably one of the, to bring it back around to, the podcast and what it's based in for, is that has been some of the most interesting conversations I've ever had Masonically. Is I know Masonic Satanists, and I know ones that actually practice spell casting and all this other stuff. And I'm like, could you not touch me? Like, just like I'll talk to you, I'll sit next to you in lodge, but like make sure our knees don't touch, please.
You always got one eye on that guy, like
yes. And so it's so interesting. Like, no, the bulk majority of people that I meet in Masonry are Christians or deists or something along those lines.
The vast majority in Florida are for sure Christian,
but there are a handful of people that take the Dungeons and Dragons spells a little too seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Dungeons and Dragons. Haven't played in a while, but hey, if anyone's listening, I'd love to get a group together. Let's do it. Let's play online. I'll dungeon master if I have to. I'd rather be a player. And I read J.D. Vance is big into Lord of the Rings.
Really?
If you do a little research, like a lot of the companies he's been involved in have like references to Lord of the Rings. And so I guess he's a huge Lord of the Rings fan, which is kind of the same stuff. Dungeons and Dragons, elves and magic.
The political atmosphere right now is so entertaining. We've got one potential VP pick that has an affinity for furniture and another one that has an affinity for equestrian lifestyle. I don't know what to do.
Neither of those things is true. You know that.
I know, but they're still hilarious.
Those stories are out there and people believe it. It's crazy. Yeah, there are people that actually believe that J.D. Vance had sex with a couch. And it's not true. He didn't, FYI. It's just a funny story that somehow took off, and now it's out there.
And then there's the story of what's the other guy's name? Kamala's pick, Waltz. Yeah, that he had to get his stomach pumped from horse semen.
What?
You haven't heard that?
No.
Oh, dude, somebody like posted this article.
How much horse semen in you to?
That is a fantastic question. I want to know about the harvesting process.
Yeah,
not for any other reason, but for curiosity. I was raised on a farm. Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah, and Matt's like, I try, okay? And you cannot get that much semen out of a horse.
Look, it come to find out, you can't milk a bull. I learned that the hard way. I'm kidding. For the record, I did not try to milk a bull.
Okay. We all believe you. Wink, wink.
That's messed up. We have to edit this out.
It's in the internet. It's in the ether.
Yep,
Matt,
it's out there now.
It's
Matt
true.
pleasures
Must be
male
true.
bulls,
That's not a true statement at all.
but never had a stomach pump for semen. That's a new one. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. No, I would say the only, I guess, probably the most, and this isn't uncommon, but like the most sketchy thing that I've ever done on the farm is I actually had to pull a calf. And so I actually had to reach up into the back of the mother cow. It was hung. And I actually had to reach up in there and try to work this calf out because otherwise you're going to lose both.
Yeah.
So that was a 5-gallon bucket in an open field and a really bad day.
Did the baby make it?
No, actually, neither one made it.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah, the baby
You don't have a blooming career in veterinary medicine here so far.
No, I won't. But I do have one in a 9mm. That is true. So,
Oh, you had to put him down?
yeah. So what ended up happening is the baby had died previously, and so
Stillborn.
it was stillborn, and so without getting into too much detail, like I wasn't
Too
able
late.
to pull the entire calf out. I was pulling portions out.
Oh my god.
Oh, it was rough. It was rough. And my wife was there for this too. So we were dating at the time, and she's like, I'm Southern. I'm like, babe, can you do me a favor and just hold the tail? And I'm like shoulder deep into this thing, right? So you're really going to have to edit this out.
That's how you knew you had the one.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because she's sitting there talking about how she's Southern and she was from Montgomery, Alabama, all this other stuff. And I'm like, just hold the tail. And she's,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. So either way, come to find out, I couldn't save either one. So the baby was stillborn, and then I couldn't get, all that out. So ended up having to put the mother down as well.
Damn, that's harsh.
Well, I mean, you're raised on a property with 150 head of cattle. I mean, we were pulling calves whenever I was like 5-6 years old. So that's not uncommon for me to have experienced.
I have to say, like, now that I'm more out in the country on my own, there is definitely, because I grew up in like cities, like a typical American, probably like from the north, right?
Yeah.
And so now that I'm out in the country, life and death is a part of every day. It just is. And it's not when you're in the city and you're living the people life, human life only. You aren't around that. Only death you see is your pet goldfish and your dog or your grandma. But when you're in the wild,
yeah,
and you're dealing with other animals, death is a part of your everyday life.
Look, whenever it comes to nature, whenever it comes to humans, I mean, living in a city or living in a suburb is abnormal throughout the course of human history. It's totally abnormal. The fact that we don't experience death but a few times in our lives.
Yeah, that shows how comfortable we've become.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, growing up, it's like we were our own first responders. Right. We were our own police. We were our own medical. So it's like I do medical training. My daughter, whenever she gets old enough, she'll be doing medical training and firearms training. And
you were your own date.
Yep, I was my own date. Yep. So I was my own first love.
Yeah,
that's what I am. I still love me some me.
Broke up 5 times, and still couldn't. Still couldn't get away.
So either way, yeah. I mean, you're experiencing this now. Living where you live now is that just how different it is living in a subdivision versus living out on 10, 15 acres.
I've been against guns my whole life, and I now own 4 guns.
Attaboy.
A rifle, a shotgun, and 2 handguns.
Attaboy.
I mean, it's not like a choice anymore. This is how life is, and you need to be prepared.
I actually, my wife woke me up this morning and she was like, 7, I was awake, but, just kind of like laying in bed being lazy. And she's like, hey, I need you to grab your 22 and walk out the front door of the house. And I was like, why? She goes, something is trying to get the chickens and you need to sneak up on them. Say less. So, yeah. So the whole having to deal with predators and everything, I've already dealt with that this morning.
Just this morning.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's for people that have been in city life their whole life, they're never going to understand that life, or that world. And there's a lot of hardship in it. But again, like hardship is part of making someone a better person, in my mind, in my experience. So don't knock that. In fact, you should, if you're lucky, you'll get to experience some of that in your life.
And even still, like, some of it can be used for like good, valuable teaching. And I don't know how we got off on this tangent. We're talking about supernatural. Now we're talking about shooting animals. But either way,
goes along.
What's that?
It goes along with it.
Yeah. So the next hitchhiker you're going to pick up is going to be a rooster that I shot a while back.
Yeah.
So, but either way, we're out there by the chickens, and my daughter, she was 2 at the time, 2.5, and my rooster jumped up and spurred her back. And so I don't know if you guys have felt the spurs on a rooster, but those things are solid. Like they'll cut you open pretty easily. And so, before that rooster ever hit the ground, I carry a firearm on me every day. And so my EDC, and so I draw it. I have it drawn ready to go before that rooster ever hit the ground. So I told my wife, I was like, hey, carry Brooke back inside. I'm going to handle this whole rooster situation. And so shot the rooster, brought Brooke back outside, and I was able to teach her a very valuable lesson that if anything hurts you, it's Dad's job to now hurt that thing, whatever that is. I don't care if it's a person. I don't care if it's an animal. No matter what it is, if anything hurts you, you tell me I hurt that thing. So sure enough, if you ask my daughter, I could probably get her on right now, but if you were to ask my daughter, hey, what happened to the rooster? Dad shot him. Like, really? Like, okay, why? Dad killed him because he hurt me. Like, and that's, but like, she understands, like, my 3-year-old has a concept of life and death. And so, which led to a very awkward conversation whenever she asked me where my dad was. Yeah. And, we're driving down the road and I have to explain to her that my dad died. And, with my faith, my dad's with Jesus. And then she looks at me and she was like, through the rearview mirror, she looks at me. She's like, can I go see him? No, baby. No, you can't. That's a one-way ticket.
Not today, honey. Not today. That's crazy.
How did we get on this? My gosh.
I mean, it's this podcast is a black hole of rabbit holes. Could go anywhere. We got 2 episodes out of this. There's going to be a part 1 and a part 2. So we'll break this up, Mikey, and do this over 2 weeks. If you have anything to report and you don't know where to go to aaro.mil. That is the All Domain Anomaly Research Office of the U.S. government, where they want citizens to report this stuff. aaro.mil. You can read all about the All Domain Anomaly Research Office and what they do, and you can actually report whether you had a creature you saw, or you had some black figures in your house at night, or you saw some lights in the sky. That's where you want to go report it and let the government know and investigate that stuff. Or you can contact Beyond the Boundaries out of sunny Sarasota, Florida. If you're in that area, I mean, how far out do you go in your?
Go anywhere.
You'll go to Zimbabwe. You'll go to Tanzania. You'll go.
Hey, we actually are even planning on going to Georgia. There's a bunch of reports in Georgia for paranormal stuff. So Georgia, anywhere. So anywhere
he'll take your reports, and we're going to link his Facebook and YouTube and his website, Beyond the Paranormal. .wixsite.com is his website. And you can see their experiences they've had, the investigations they've done. They have a podcast you can watch and listen to. Or you can have them come with their equipment. I'm sure you have some like scientific equipment, right, that you're bringing to measure different things. Like what are you using in that realm right now as far as your equipment goes?
So we get new equipment.
I don't know if I like that snicker.
What's snicker?
I know when you ask a question and someone goes,
yes,
it's like, wait, what did I just step into? That was a simple question.
We literally had to buy a whole, those rolling toolboxes that you get at like Home Depot, Walmart, or whatever, with like different cases. We have one with like 4 or 5 cases filled with equipment.
Oh wow!
Thousands of dollars of equipment we got.
Jeez.
I mean, so typically they're going to have things to measure electromagnetic
EMF.
Variances.
We got tri-fields. We got everything. Everything.
You got like night vision. You got like LiDAR stuff. You've got we got magnetic measuring cameras. Devices.
We don't have LiDAR.
You don't have LiDAR?
We don't have LiDAR.
Oh, you can buy them for a few $100.
But that's probably the next investment we'll make.
I have one, so invite me and I'll bring my LiDAR.
Come on down. We also, anyone requests to like come down and having a join us on investigations, we take people to come down and have fun with us at an investigation or anything.
I think it should be noted that the hitchhikers are an additional fee. So
yeah, that's like a $10.99 additional fee.
Yeah, so if you take home a Frank, there's going to be an additional cost for that.
Yeah. Or if you get your own Frank, then that's still an additional charge.
I'm gonna leave with one thing that I uncovered on my own that I'm actually still investigating. I haven't bought it yet. There's a device called the Madar, MADAR. You can check it out at store.madar.site. This so the government's not being forthcoming. None of the governments are about what they know.
Shocking, sir.
I know,
shocking,
right? So there are a group of scientists that have created a device that measures all the stuff that they typically see disturbances in when there's some weird strangeness happening, right? And it's usually involves some type of magnetic disturbance and some electrical interference, and there's certain frequencies that they start picking up signals at. And it's a common thing that happens whenever there's a ghost story or a UAP sighting or a sighting of an animal. So you can buy this box that has all of these elements in it. It measures radioactivity. It measures like everything. And it connects to your home, a computer, and it's sending the information through a network because everyone else that has a Madar device is also sending that live information through a feed. And so if you ever have an experience, you report it. Or even if you haven't experienced anything, they can give you an indication that your warnings are going off in your device and other devices around you. So there's some activity in the area. And they're trying to get as much data as they can to start to coordinate an actual investigation by citizens. So it's called the Madar device. I'm considering buying one. Check it out, store.madar.site. And let me know if you think this is like some, I already got like all the normal government watch stuff, right? I got my phone. I got my Ring cameras. They're already watching and listening to everything. So how bad can this device be? What, that's where my head's at. Like, I'm already giving them everything.
We should really solidify all the people that speak poorly about Masonry. Let's just start an independent body that exclusively like looks after paranormal stuff. Like,
that's not Masonic.
No, let's go ahead and make it Masonic. Yeah, let's just go ahead and travel down this path.
Yeah, have a Masonic.
We are Satan worshippers. You got us, and we do eat babies, and they're delicious.
And we summon the Greys, and we have a frog that spits fire, and it reveals the message from Satan.
No,
I have seen the frog that spits fire. That I have seen.
Yeah, that's called a dragon, my friend.
Yeah, I saw the House of Dragons too, man. I've seen it, all right? I know what's going on.
I watched Game of Thrones. I know what you're on about.
That show's awesome, by the way. That. Just ended season 2.
Dracarys. Let's do it.
All right, guys. Matt, you got anything else you want to add before we end the suffering of our poor listeners?
No, I think people are getting to know me in a very intimate way that I'm not necessarily okay with.
I want to thank you for sharing your personal story of what happened with your father. That's really personal, and it's really brave to share that publicly. So thank you.
I have not told that story to anybody. So what better place to share it than with thousands of Masonic brothers and eavesdroppers that we're going to have here on this podcast. So
we welcome the Collins. You're welcome on this show.
Just here.
Mikey, how about you? Anything you want to add on the way out?
No, just check us out on Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, and just let us know feedbacks on what you guys think.
Anything that you would say to someone that's thinking about getting into Masonry but maybe doesn't know if it's for them?
Do it. Just find a lodge that's correct for you. Make sure you connect with the brothers there, and enjoy your journey. That if you do end up going into it, enjoy the journey. Take it slow,
and know that not all of us are weird.
I mean,
just the ones we hang out with.
Yeah. Just our little circle here.
Yeah.
The weirder, the better for us at On the Level Podcast. So, thank you, Mikey, for coming from Beyond the Boundaries Paranormal.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sorry.
So thank you for having me.
Oh, I thought I said it wrong. Okay, good. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. We'll have you back. This is going to be 2 episodes. You'll be on over the course of 2 weeks.
Awesome.
People will hopefully reach out to you with what's going on. I hope you follow up with us if anyone allows, if a Mason reaches out to you and they're willing to share their story, we'd love to have a follow-up to hear how it went.
That'd be great. And even if there's any lodges that, need investigation.
Or lodges.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm really want to do one of those.
So here's another episode from On the Level Podcast. Join us as we continue to delve into some of the current affairs in Freemasonry here coming up. There's been some interesting things going on in our state, and we may start to talk about it on the podcast. We're definitely going to do several episodes on the Taxel hoax here coming up soon.
Woohoo!
So I know Matt's looking forward to that one, and so am I. I'm trying to get the right guest that maybe is an expert or knows something about this to talk about it. But if we can't, screw it. We're just going to do it ourselves. I can't wait anymore. We've been wanting to talk about this for so long. So stay tuned for that. From